The Grand Trunk Western logo is one of the more iconic logos in railroading. And one of the nice things about the Grand Trunk Western logo is when you see especially auto rack trains, you can definitely still see the Grand Trunk Western logo all across the country. And as we draw it, Grand Trunk Western logo just has a lot of straight lines, and probably getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but kind of look at the engines. One of the things about the Grand Trunk Western logo is, through the years as I've done it, is that where it bends and goes around all these curves here, to kind of keep giving it a nice precise look, you want to do your best that every leg, every tail, every bend of the G and the T are as much the same size as you can make them be. Kind of get my hand out of here. Where, see the top, and then where it bends, and then where it bends and bends again, they all have the same basic size. It's basically like a piece of pipe bending around, or a noodle like the C in Wet Noodle. And then what you also kind of want to do is where the curves are, you want them to be nice and round, and where the corners are, have them be straight where they need to be straight. And then, like, here's a point where you want the G and the T like to be the same basic size. Like this is where it's important to have a ruler if you want. This is like 1 inch and 3/8, which, and right here, see, I made this a little too long right here when I was just drawing it out. It really should go to about here, which I should erase that off, which it's not that big a deal, but just to kind of show you that if it goes to about here, and don't be afraid to erase it, especially as you're practicing. There's a tendency to not want to erase, but don't be afraid to erase. If there's anything to teach, it's that especially as you're beginning, every single time you make a mistake or anything, it teaches you over time not to keep doing it again. But see, because I brought that in a little bit, the T is nice and centered. And see, if that arm of the T had gone all the way out there, the T would have been way out here. It wouldn't have quite looked quite as centered, and the G and the T are about the same size. So what we can do is, just for the ease of this, is we have the choice. We can go around this, and here I'm using just a light blue ballpoint pen. It's good to trim around the letters. Keep getting my hand out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. And then what we should do here is, I've done this in 1 or 2 of the other demonstrations, but this is the blue. It's called Copenhagen blue. Now these pens getting harder and harder to find. I'm starting to switch brands. Michaels makes a brand, and There's all different kinds of brands out there. But these are the Prismacolor pens. And then there's the Copic pens are very popular. I've used those. They're a brand that I've been using now since. And basically every leg of the G and the T, you want to kind of pivot it and paint along that side. And as I've said before, doing lettering is very good practice, because doing the lettering, when you start to draw the finished engines, having the lettering be nice and tight is always a good idea. Because you don't want to spend hours and hours drawing an engine and then when you put the GT for Grand Trunk Western, not have practiced it. So I would practice lettering at least 5, 6, 7 times for every engine that I draw. And as you can see, I put several coats of the blue. And there we go. There's the Grand Trunk Western logo.